to a department that's full of geographers. I work for the geography department, and I'm an international relationist. To me, that makes no sense, but that's how the world is. That's me.
Tora, can you reflect a little bit on some of the bits Sid said? I noticed you nodding, so maybe you've got some contribution kind of equal to that of Raphael, or different perspective, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, it was quite a long question, but I really agree with Raphael. Like, one of my selling points is that it's interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. And as you said, like, not everything makes sense sitting there, but in the end, it really do. Like the technical course, like PET, I'm not sure if you have it still. Do you? I don't know. Probably, but okay. But now it makes a lot of sense, and it gets you to understand like how everything is connected, like some parts of it. But the interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary perspectives of it, it gives you the strength to view different perspectives on different problem statements and topics, which is, and maybe the ability to like shift focus areas really quickly. And for me, that's really important, and that's one of my selling points. But as I mentioned, I went to Munich on exchange, and that gave me so many new perspectives. And there they had different courses. I think that program was called Technology and Politics, and then we had like focused on the environmental perspective of it. But there they focused on a lot of different things than at the MEES program, but still a lot of the same things. And I think it helped me better to understand how things are connected. And for me, that was very valuable, and it was really tough being there and to get like everything done, because it's quite differently organized than in Stavanger. We had to deliver all the time. It was very interactive. And I wasn't sure if we were able to like make it through the semester. But that was perspectives I have from there, even though it was hard and very stressful. That helped me a lot to like broaden my knowledge base. And I think as well with the internship that they now have at the program, I think that's also something to really consider and strive for. Yeah, I'm not sure if I answered the question, but that's some of my takeaways from there. Like, yeah.
So I have to unmute him. Okay. We are getting, we have heard a lot of interesting stuff, and now we're wrapping things up. So are there any more questions from the people sitting here? Yes, in the back. Would you like to, yeah, if you come up.
So I heard some questions about job interviews. Not questions, but people were talking about that they went through 3 job interviews. I think it was you. They went through
for one position.
For one position. But what I want to know is what sort of questions were asked in the job interviews, the expectations they had for you, and how did you prepare for the job interview?
Directly to me?
To anyone.
Yeah. I think probably Raphael has most experience when it comes to job interviews, but I can start here. So just rounding up, I applied as well through Finn and the other 3 portals, mostly for jobs. Probably about 20 jobs, mostly as well graduate positions. I would say like 80% of them were for Norwegians, more or less. So I applied in Norwegian, which was an extra challenge for me as an international student. When it comes to the one practical job interview I got, so I applied for several, but I never got invited for a job interview. Maybe it was a qualification, maybe it was because I was not Norwegian. We don't know yet. This one job interview, how did I get it? So there was, for example, at the university, there was a presentation from Trainee West, which were at the university presenting the places they had, because Trainee West is cooperating with the university, they're in a partnership. So the goal is to get students from Stavanger out into the business world. So I was there, and I was, after, when they presented it, I was talking to the people who presented, which was a woman who is, Christine, who is organizing and leading the Trainee Service, and as well Christine, who was from Personalwesen. So after that, I went to them and talked with them about the positions, so that they remember my face when I applied. And as well, I asked the person from the Personalwesen if she can review my CV, for example, and she said yes. So I sent her my CV, she reviewed, and just not like grammar and stuff, just like structure, what you should do better, especially in the Norwegian context, what you should keep out, because I had a lot of nonsense there, which is important in Germany, but not in Norway. Like driver license, for example. In Germany, always had it. And then I got feedback from her, and then 2 weeks later, I applied for a job to her, and she got my CV again. So, yeah, easy. It's important that you get, like as Christine said before, get connected with people and ask when you see people and you think it's interesting, get to know them. And then it was for me probably the reason how I get the first interview with them, and because they knew me already and I was speaking just Norwegian with them, so they knew, okay, you can understand and speak at least some Norwegian. The company has to decide later on if it's enough or not to work there. And actually my company is just Norwegian, so I work all day. I hear just 8 hours of Norwegian all day. So I'm improving quite radical right now. And so the first interview was just with the person from the Trainee Service and the Personalwesen. There was no company, nothing. And the questions we get there were like, yeah, just get to know each other. What are you doing? Not your personal family business, but yeah, what have you done before? Where are you engaged? And what are your kind of interests? And then they check if you can go through and you're like a real person more or less, and not just someone who applied and has nothing to offer somehow. And then the second phase of the interview, was presenting a case, which was kind of complex because I got the most loved sustainable development goals and got to present 6 of them. And I had no clue because I had no idea of waste management. So I reached out to people. I contacted Victor, I contacted Olof, I contacted my 2 supervisors for my master thesis, and even 2 alumni from Raphael's year to just give me some input, what they think about this question and all kind of stuff. So after that and reading a lot about waste management, I created like a presentation for them, which were somehow convinced them, I don't know what, but yeah. And I had that wasn't 1 hour interview. So I presented my case and then talking actually the first time with people from the company. And they had as well some questions, but the second interview was really related to the topic they are working with waste and stuff, which was new for me, and they knew that because I have not wrote anything in my application about waste. So I talked most of the time about energy and renewable energy because I focused the last 3 years since my bachelor writing on renewable energy. So I think what you get out of this can be I have set focus on one thing to be like almost a specialist, maybe in renewable energy in some kind. And they saw maybe in me like, okay, give him some time and he can learn it anyway. And that's something you should have to take out of the master program. That when you focus on something, you are, because it's so broad, you can start with circular economy or even sustainable food production into renewables, oil, and all kind of ways. Get some kind of specialist in something which you think is interesting and show them, present them, yet you are able to learn that and you are able to learn really fast. And then they see, okay, we can hire him as well for waste management even though he has no idea what's going on here because he can learn it. He has the ability to do it. And that was, the last interview was meeting in Corona times with them in the office, sitting 9 people, as I said before, and it was just about, like stupid questions like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I'm like, I don't know. I want to have a wife maybe, but I don't know. No, they don't want to hear that. They want to see, maybe in the company, what plans do you have in the company? So there's a book called, it's a Norwegian book I got from a friend, the job code or something. I will look it up. And there are a lot of questions like this where it's like an answer for it. But there is no real answer for this kind of questions because it's all about your personality and what you have experienced like in your life and what kind of experience working or school or interactive stuff which you have to sell there. And I think we should do like a how to sell yourself workshop or something like that because it's really important, as Raphael and everyone else said, it's so important to sell yourself and the master program, but especially yourself because they will see, okay, what can you learn? How fast can you learn? And the master is relevant to get an idea about transitions and maybe sustainability or something like that. But I want to see how fast can you take the input from the company because you have probably never worked with it before. And at that point, it's, I think, crucial just to sell yourself that you are able to do it anyway what they throw at you, more or less. Because that's what's happening at me at work right now. They come every day with new stuff and I have no idea. So, you can just do it. If you have questions, just ask. And it's tough, but it's as well interesting, I would say. And you have to,
Were these interviews in Norwegian?
Yeah, so my interviews, it was around 3 hours in total, all the interviews, all Norwegian. Which is a tough challenge. I can say that, because I can say I started learning Norwegian in 2013 already, 14, when I was in Germany at a school there. I already planned to go to Norway, going on exchange and going further. So there are as well positions in English, but they are much less, and the competition is really high for that as well. Because you have the international students who are searching or applying there, and the Norwegians as well, because who don't want to work for Equinor or speak other multi-consult and other big companies usually. Everyone tries to. So the competition is really high there. And just to get a perspective on the trainee service, we got now feedback that around for 15 positions which are now in place, around 550 people applied. And it was the first time trainee service was established. So we expect that next year even more apply from all over the country. But I think Raphael has more to say maybe on interviews.
Yeah, that was a very good comprehensive answer. It was a great question as well. I think given Raphael's experience, we should probably get him to reflect a little bit on some of the questions he's been asked, and perhaps we can get maybe one of the alumni in the room to reflect a little bit, and then we can conclude the evening. I think just kind of listening to some of the responses, I think you can do quite a lot of preparatory work before your interview. You're going to be asked about your education, and given what the job is about, you're probably going to have to frame that education in a way that is relevant to the position you're applying for. From my own personal experience, when I applied for my PhD in the department, the head of the department at the time Zafar asked me, he said, well, you have a bachelor's in history. How is this relevant? This doesn't appear relevant to the PhD that you have. And I came prepared with about 7 or 8 answers, and after ranting for about 10 minutes about how the question was clearly, the relevance was so incredibly clear, and how important it was to have this historical knowledge. He said, I'm convinced you've convinced me of it. So I think kind of you're going to be asked to reflect on that education and sort of preparing to relate it to the type of work that you're going to be doing. I think that it's maybe not a great idea. Some of the advice I've been given is to try not to get into the mind of the interviewer, otherwise you'll drive yourself crazy because you have so many different interview styles. People are more interested in links to the local community, and that's very important in their eyes. Others are more interested in what your contributions can be. And you have to balance this fine line between being confident and assertive, but also not being arrogant. I've heard people who have been successful in job applications, and they've been asked to kind of, can you do these things? And in giving an honest answer by saying, I can do this and this, but I can't do this, and I can't do this, but I can learn, and I'm eager to learn, that's really put them in good stead, whereas other people that have perhaps said, well, yeah, I can do all of this, and then struggle to kind of substantiate that later on in their interview. So I think if you're okay to speak a little bit about some of the questions that you've been asked, Raphael, some of the more standard ones, or some of the tricky ones, I think that would be really useful as well to reflect on that experience.
Right, well, I don't know if anyone else also wants to say something, but I can give a little summary. I won't go too long, I promise. The first thing I'm going to say is there's no standard questions and no standard interview. So I recommend all of you to sign up to the UES Career Office job interview courses, because, I mean, that's one example. There are, on LinkedIn, you can find videos for different types of interview questions. But I recommend practicing with each other, practicing at the career office, because they do have events where you can ask each other questions. And at the end of the day, it can either depend on if the person is looking for the right person for the job, or for the right person that they want to work with, or one of a million different things. So they might be looking for more for your background or for you. At the end of the day, you have to sell yourself both as a person and as a future or potential employee. So you have to think about both things. Like Ben said, don't try to, so to say, over-profile the employer. I mean, you're trying to prove that you're qualified and that you'd fit into a working environment, so that you would actually enjoy doing, I'm sorry, I just felt like someone was gonna break into my flap. That was very odd. Wrong flap. Sorry, that completely distracted me. So think about the fact that you're trying to fit into a job and into a working environment. So you're trying to sell that your life experience and work experience make you someone that, as Ruben said, might make you adapt to a new working environment and learn as you go. And at the same time, you're proving that, yeah, that you're not just a box, you're not just your education, you can do more than one thing. Maybe one person might ask you, tell me about yourself, and they mean tell me your CV. And then the next interview, someone says, tell me about yourself, but don't talk about your education. And then they literally mean don't talk about your education. One time I said, well, my family moved around the world, and that's why I wanted to study international relations, and I was cut off. Because the guy said, but I want you to talk about yourself. How many do you have siblings? Tell me about your family. I want to know who you are as a person. It really depends on the process. As Ruben said, you can have different stages. You can have one stage with a HR company, for example, like Ruben had, or you can have 2 stages in the public sector. In the public sector, you might get called into a one-time or a first-time interview, which might be over the phone, or it might be in person, and it might last 10 minutes. And the second interview might be longer. My case has been really particular because up until Friday, or up until today, like I said, I hadn't met my boss. My entire interview process, signing my contract and starting my job has been through Zoom, so that's been fun. But the point is, there's no A4 way to the process. There's 1,000,000 ways to plan for an interview, to prepare for an interview. You just have to prove that you're qualified, that you're gonna like the job. That's the important thing. You're qualified, you're gonna fit in, and you actually might enjoy it. They want someone who's gonna stay there. That's why if they ask you, where do you see yourself in a couple of years? Maybe if you're gonna work for Lyse, don't say, oh, actually, I want to, I don't know, I want to be doing something completely different. Maybe tell your ambitions, but maybe say how you'd be wanting to have this experience to contribute to the long term. I think one mistake I made in that sense was I got interviewed once by Oslo Kommune in the administrative side, but it was a really standard position where the other person that would have worked with me had been there for 10 years. And I said that I wanted to use that position to build up and maybe expand into other parts of the municipality. Maybe at the end of the day, they wanted to hire someone that was going to stay at the job more than a few years. So it really depends. Like I said, just go to the career office, reach out to people, ask.
Thank you very much, Raphael. Okay, unless there's any very pressing questions anyone has, I think we'll look to conclude the more formal part of this evening. So if everyone could just give a round of applause, please, to the this event room is booked until 11, so hopefully some of the alumni are still here and people can have kind of more informal interactions. I think Johanna's going to come up and maybe can formally conclude the event.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ben and Tina, for being the moderators. It's so nice to have you as PhD students and be able to interact with us as master students. So thank you so much for joining us. And then I would also recommend using them, talking to them, and yeah, just using them as a resource.
We're not busy at all.
No, they just hang around at the office and drink coffee, and yeah, you guys should go and talk to them. And then I really want to thank all of the participants for taking your Monday evening off and coming here and talking to us first and second year students, and just really like giving us motivation and giving us a push to really, you know, enjoy our master. Sometimes it's hard to know what are we doing with our life, basically. And it's just nice to hear that, you know, you guys are successful and you are doing really cool things. So thank you so much to, oh, they're gone. What happened? They're back. Okay. If you can hear me, thank you so much, Tora and Raphael, for joining us online. I'm really glad we were able to do that. This whole Corona thing has taught us so much about like Teams and Zoom and all of that. And even though we're not that technical, we made it work. So that was cool. And thank you to the participants that were able to be here in person as well. And then, of course, to everyone else that took their Monday evening off to be here with us. This was the first event of this semester, and we are, like, as MEES organization, we're always, you know, learning on the go. Some of the board members have been in the board for 1 year, and then we have a lot of new members that have been with us for, 5 weeks. So we're grateful that you want to come to the events that we create, and we also we want your feedback. We want to know what you want to do, what's helpful, what's not helpful, and yeah, really glad that you came to this event. And keep the corona situation in mind, and mingle but stay in your tables. Yes, thank you for coming.
Johanna, se på musikken på padden.